Hey everybody, I'm Jason, and this is Jay's Project Garage. I'm wearing the same shirt I was last weekend. This is one of the ones I don't wear to work, so it gets in the regular weekend rotation. It's not last weekend, it's today. And it's Saturday, about 9 o'clock. I've already got the wood furnace going. It's starting to get a little bit warm in here. It's like 28 degrees or something outside. Indiana. It's awesome. But today, we're going to be talking about the 5-liter. My plans for the Ranger. We're going to be talking about the 65 and my plans for it. The Explorer thing. We're going to be working on the 69. We're going to be talking about Facebook. That stuff will always get you irritated. We're going to be talking about the Triple Y and Triple X 5-liter blocks. Blocks. Cylinder blocks. The big chunk of cast iron that's got all the stuff in it. Let's see, what else? We're going to be talking about the piston flip thing just a little bit. We're going to talk about roller lifter stuff on 5 liters. We're getting into a whole bunch of different stuff. And it seemed like some of the guys like the mismatch of crap, the editing style, or lack of, from the last couple of videos. So we're going to carry that on. I'm just going to keep sticking stuff in wherever, see how it turns out. Guess that's it. So let's get to the lame action. But first, let's talk about some comments. So the Franks, we have 2 of them now. And Gail, yes, I remember you're still here. I'm glad. The Franks. One of you guys said something about talking about engine swaps and engine setback and angles and all that kind of stuff. We will absolutely be getting into that when we start setting up the Model A, because that's a full 2x3 rectangle tube chassis. So we've pretty much got to set all the points for everything. This is all the rear suspension, front suspension. We're going to be making all of our own 4-link stuff for the rear. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to do a 4-link or something just like a modified 4-link. We're going to be setting up the front suspension, and we're going to be doing the engine and transmission, so I can show you guys how I do it. To set all the angles and everything else. So we will absolutely be covering that. We'll be building that whole car basically from a pile of parts, so that should be a lot of fun. The other Frank said something about getting a 292 Y-block Ford and it being all grungy, and I wanted to talk about that. There's a reason why old engines are grungier than new ones. There's a couple different reasons. One, gaskets are way better than they ever used to be. Oil seals and that kind of stuff, they hold up better. We're not using the old rope seals and stuff that they used back in the day for mains. They use lip seals, rubber lip seals. They're a lot better. And they've gone to one-piece remain seal, so you don't have that seam like we did back in the day to worry about. And 2, are we on 2? I think that's 2. PCV systems stands for positive crankcase ventilation. Back in the day, all they had was it was called a road draft tube, and it would come out, and it was exactly that. It would come out and just dump blow by and the oil vapors and all that kind of stuff right out onto the pavement. PCV systems creates a vacuum inside the crankcase. So when your road draft tube or anything else started getting grunged up, you'd start having pressure inside the crankcase, and it would push oil out of every gasket and seal in the whole engine. And it would just, you pop the hood, and it looked like a big ball of goo. You pop the hood of my 178,000 mile F-150, and it's not leaking a drop anywhere. You can crawl underneath it, and it is dry as a bone. It's never leaked a drop of anything ever. PCV systems are better. Piston rings are better. Gaskets and seals are a lot better than they ever used to be. So thanks for the idea, Frank. That's a good one. I wanted to cover it. Another comment. Somebody said something about turbo coyote swap in the 91. And I wanted to talk about crate engines. So the guy at work, some of you guys may remember this, but the guy at work with the newer Camaro, with the built stroker LS that's running into all kinds of problems, that the shop where he took it to get it fixed, they're insisting that It was piston rings. They told them, oh yeah, the gaps on the rings were all lined up and that's what caused that. We are going to be revisiting the Tecumseh, and we're going to be doing a ring experiment. I just have so much stuff going on. We'll talk about that more later on in the video. As far as crate engines are concerned, and money. I didn't want to talk about money on the channel, but I wanted to be able to relate to everybody. Kind of put things in context. I make $0 on YouTube because, well, my videos suck and my channel's really small. And I don't think who knows? I don't think I'll ever get to the point where I'll actually make any money at this. So all I have is my regular job and my side hustle. And I don't really side hustle all that often. It's just every once in a while I'll come across something, and you know, I did it a lot more when I was younger. But my main job is I'm a body man. I work on 100% commission. I'm not going to give you exact dollar amounts, but I make a solid 6 figures. My wife stays at home. And you would think, wow, you make that kind of money, you should be able to do whatever you want. And my whole career when I was younger, if I make more money, I'll be able to afford to do whatever. It's always chasing the dollar. And it seemed like the more money I made, the more things cost. And it's gotten even worse now. Like my trip to the grocery store, that I think comes up later in the video. Maybe. Everything is costing more, a lot more. So no matter how much I chase the dollar, I just can't quite reach. I can't get there. So you can spend your entire life chasing the almighty dollar, or you can just do what you can do with what you got. And I think doing what you can do with what you got, you wind up being happier in the end. And a lot less worn out. Except, this is Jay's Project Garage, which means projects, which means I always have a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of places for money to go. I bought my house as a repo. I've literally gone through every major system in it. Half the framing in the house is new. The inside is 98% done, and now I'm doing the outside. I'm doing board and batten siding. I'm putting a big, I think it's 55 by 10 front porch on. I'm doing a 32 by 16 deck in the back. We're putting a metal roof on it. I still have to do the whole outside of the shop, and it's 40 by 70. I love the garage doors, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be replacing them. There's just a lot of places for money to go. Maintenance on vehicles. We still owe money on my wife's Explorer. I think it's paid off in a year. And I flirted with the idea of getting another truck, but I haven't decided. I have a daughter in college, in her senior year. She'll be done midterm next year, so she basically has a year left to go because she's triple majoring, so she has to go an extra semester. I have a daughter in high school. I have a son in middle school. I have a family. I have a mortgage. There's a lot of places for money to go. Yes, we have money back. Yes, I have the money to go buy a crate engine. But I have other things, other places where that money needs to go. That's how I'm trying to relate to you guys. I'm no different than anybody else. I have responsibilities, and it is what it is. So as far as the crate engine thing's concerned, I go spend $8,000. I work for a dealership group in the body shop. So yes, I could get a discount through our Ford dealer. We actually have multiple Ford dealers in the group. I could get a discount through the dealer on that crate engine, and I have no idea what it would be. I'm sure it'd be substantially less than the $7,900 that you can get one from CJ Pony Parts or from wherever. But it's still $7,900. And something to remember, the intake that's on the 7.3's got the throttle body that sticks up at a weird angle, so I would need to do something with the intake. Ford Performance is coming out with one that's got the throttle body that's on a little bit of a down angle, perfect for swaps. But they're guessing it's going to be $800 to $1,000. Add that to the $7,900. I'd have to have some kind of a standalone, uh, like a Haltech, or I'm sure Holley's going to come out with something, engine management system. It's going to be at least $1,500. So add that to the $7,900. I need a K member. I need headers. It uses a modular transmission, so my options are open there. I could put like a TR3650 Tremec in it out of a New Edge Mustang or something like that, or I could go with an automatic. Add that to the $7,900. The fuel system and any other modifications I'm going to have to make to the car. Before you know it, you're $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 into putting a crate engine into that thing. I don't want to spend $13,000 or $14,000. And that's for 430 horsepower. That's not a camshaft, that's not the tune, that's nothing. That's just the stuff to get it in the car and get it running. I don't want to spend 15 plus grand doing an engine swap. Could I make 550, 600 horsepower with a cam swap, a different intake, and a tune? Absolutely. The best I've seen so far, well, it's not the best, but one of the numbers I've seen so far was Texas Speed. Stock cylinder heads that reported, I don't remember what intake they used, their camshaft, the stock 10.5 to 1 compression, they didn't touch the short block whatsoever. Pretty run-of-the-mill hot roddy stuff, made 709 horsepower. That's no joke. I don't need 700 horsepower. I'm looking for 450, maybe 500. I'd be happy with 450, to be 100% honest with you. Because in a car as lightweight as a 91 Mustang, for something that I plan on driving a bunch, I don't need it. Could I turbo it and make 1,000 plus horsepower? Absolutely. Would it be fun? Absolutely. But that's not what I want to do with that car. It's kind of why I'm looking for another one. I'd like to find an LX. But Fox prices, body prices are getting, they're up there. So this video is already getting up to almost 10 minutes in just this section. We have a lot of stuff I want to cover. Maybe we'll do 2 videos again this weekend. Maybe we'll do another one tomorrow on the 5-liter stuff. Let's see, what else were we going to talk about? Ooh. The Ranger. I'm 99% sure that I'm just going to go ahead and V8 swap it and be done with the 4-liter single overhead cam stuff. The engine in the truck still runs, but it honestly sounds like it's losing oil pressure because the noise I'm hearing sounds like lash adjusters, which is basically lifters in an overhead cam engine. It takes up the slack between the rocker and the camshaft and the valve. Keeps everything from slapping around in there. I think I'm hearing lash adjusters rattling. And it's kind of saying oil pressure. When I built the thing, the bearings and everything looked fantastic. I did go ahead and put a new Melling oil pump and stuff in it. I put a new pickup on it. So what could be going on? I'm not 100% sure, other than my daughter and her lack of maintenance. And I talked about that in the last video, her not wanting to come home, and we wound up putting a lot more miles on an oil change than I wanted to see. It could be anything. So what I'm thinking, yes, I could make a bunch of trips to the junkyard and get all the pieces I need, or I can just buy a 96 Explorer or Mountaineer 5-liter, just the whole truck, kind of like what I did with the Explorer Sport Track. If you guys watched that video, get the truck here, pull the stuff I need out of it, part the rest of it out. I could probably wind up with the Explorer for next to, or the parts I needed for next to nothing. The 5-liter that had the water in it, Gale, that's the one that we're going to build to put in the Ranger. And I'm not going to use the brand new forged pistons I have. I'm going to buy a set of Summit Hyper Eutectics. They're 4-valve reliefs. I'm pretty sure they're made by Speed Pro. They've got the same skirt coating and everything on them. They look identical to a Speed Pro piston, and the price it's about 20 bucks less or so. It's like $171 for a set of pistons. I'm pretty sure we're just going to do that. This is basically going to be a stock rebuild. Not 100% sure if I'm going to leave the non-HO camshaft in there, or if I'm just going to, I've actually got one up on the, where is it? here, maybe? Nope, over here. Actually, I have a stock HO Fox Body Mustang camshaft, 444 lift, and whatever. Thinking we'll probably just use it. Not 100% sure what heads I'm going to put on it. Probably just a set of E7s, like the ones. I'll take the ones off the 351 and use those. The benefit of the 96 is 96 and early 97 they use the GT43 bar heads, which I prefer because you don't have that weird spark plug angle and you don't have the funky valve rotators on the springs. It's just less stuff to have to fool with and buy. The combustion chamber is a little bit bigger. I mean, none of this stuff really matters because it's just basically going in a stock application in this truck. And I know 5 liters, and I know you can beat them to death, and they keep coming back for more, and I won't have the problems I've been having with this overhead cam deal. The 65. So the forged pistons I was going to use in this 302, we're actually going to use those to build the roller 289 because 289s and 302s use the exact same pistons. It's just the connecting rods and crankshaft are different. So I'm pretty sure we're going to save those pistons. We're going to build a roller 289 for the 65. And my plans for that car have changed a little bit over time because I've talked about a 66 coupe that I had back in the day that I built an engine for that I always felt like if I put a little bit more camshaft in it and a good set of cylinder heads, that car would have been insane. So I was like, well, I kind of want to revisit that with the 65. Except it would be really, really cool to have an SCCA Group 2 sedan like Shelby built in the early 60s, not that early, 65 or 60, I think it was 66. It would be really cool to have one of those, something like that. 65s and 66s are probably the cheapest of the early Mustangs to build because the parts are relatively inexpensive because of supply and demand. They made so many of those that there's a lot of parts out there for them, and they're not that expensive. Plan for that car, 5-speed, 8.8 with 410s, the 8.8 that came out of the Sport Track with disc brakes, front disc brakes, and a 289 built out of a roller block with a set of early 289 cylinder heads. I've got an F4B Edelbrock intake that we'll put on it. Maybe an Autolite carburetor or a Holly, I'm not 100% sure. But I want to build an SCCA road race themed car with torque thrusts on it and the whole 9. Side exhaust. Street driven race car. I just think it'd be really fun. And it'd be dependable as hell. And I could jump in and drive it anywhere I want to go. And it'd be a blast. Would it make a whole bunch of power? I could probably eke 325, maybe 330 out of it. Maybe a little bit more with the stock head castings. But it's going to sound right. It's going to smell right. It's going to feel right. Call me weird, but on old cars, you got these guys that are cutting them apart and they're putting them on different floor pans, they're just completely, they're turning it into a new car with an old body on it. That's not why I buy an old car. I buy an old car because I like the way they drive, I like the way they feel, and I like the way they make me feel. Just brings back memories. That's just me. If I want a new car, I'll go buy a new car. If I want something that drives and feels like a new car, I'll go buy a new Mustang. I like old ones because of the experience. Let's see, what else? We're going to take this 5-liter apart a little bit more. I'm going to talk about roller lifters and cams and all that kind of crap, and we're going to start working our way towards the piston flip thing. So let's do that next. Here's something to stab in there. In fact, I forgot. I get off on a tangent. The guy at work with the Stroker LS that's having all the problems, the piston rings, they said the piston rings were all lined up. I have never in my life seen a gap alignment cause any damage at all in any way, shape, or form. He's saying that the shop that originally built the engine never gapped the rings and they butted. I asked him if the rings were broken and he said no. So I don't know. But he and I were talking about crate engines, and I talked to him about the Godzilla thing and the price and the potential and all that kind of stuff. He's like, "Oh, crate engines are definitely the way to go. I wish I had to do it all over again. I just would have bought one." But we already talked about all that. So I'm back from a running. Went to the grocery store, spent $300. Probably won't even get us through the week. Prices, man. Inflation. It's getting horrible. And I have to go with my in-laws apparently, because he's got lights out in his garage and he needs me to come over and replace them for him. I don't know if they're just bulbs. I don't know what he wants. But it never fails. Every time I think I'm gonna have a whole day to work on something, it works out that way. But we're gonna dig into this 5-liter just a little bit. We're gonna get the puller out, take the balancer off of it, pull the timing chain cover, get all the lifters and everything out of it, and we're gonna talk about lifters a little bit, comparing these to the link bar style. And I've got some link bar lifters. I'll show them to you, and I'll explain what that actually means. The 5-liter. Dun, dun, dun. This is all the factory roller stuff. When you hear somebody say spider, that's what this piece is right here. It's got these 2 bolts that hold it down. And what this spider does is it keeps the dog bones in place. These, when you hear somebody say dog bones, this is what they're talking about. Oh, they're stuck. Okay, this is a factory Ford roller lifter. See the roller wheel? This is what actually rides on the camshaft. Unlike the old flat tappet stuff where the bottom would be completely, well, not totally flat, but you get the idea. We gotta do something to keep this thing from twisting in the bore. If this thing twists and that roller isn't riding on the lobe straight, the lifter and the camshaft are gonna be done almost immediately. So that's what the dog bone does. It locks in, keeps it from twisting at all. So that's the roller 5-liter. Now if you go with an older one that doesn't have provisions for roller, there's a couple different choices. There's a retrofit, and they sell you a spider, dog bones, roller lifters, bolts, and you'll have to drill and tap the lifter valley to hold all this stuff together. But you're gonna have to run a reduced base circle camshaft, because the lifter bores and a 5-liter roller motor are shorter. Wrong, dummy. The lifter bores and a roller motor are taller than the old ones. Man, I need to get my facts straight before I start preaching to you guys, than they are on an old one. And what will happen if you don't use a reduced base circle cam is the lifter will actually come too far up out of the bore, and it'll expose this part of the lifter, and you'll wind up with the engine will basically be bleeding internally. It'll bleed off oil pressure, and that's exactly what you don't want. But I'll get you guys in closer here in just a second, and I'll show you the lifter bores on this one, and I'll show you the lifter bores on an older one. This is a link bar lifter setup. And instead of using dog bones and the tray and all that stuff, it uses this link bar to keep the lifters from twisting in the bore, and it keeps the rollers riding true on the lobe on the camshaft. One thing to keep in mind on the 8.2 deck stuff, the 351 Windsor, because of the taller deck height, doesn't have this problem. But if you do decide to go this route over this one, keep in mind, you see the height difference? That height difference is going to keep you from being able to remove these with the cylinder heads on. These will come out with the heads on. These will not. There's just not enough room. I'm not 100% sure that they're all like that, but everyone that I've run into, that's been a problem. These are expensive. These are actually Crowers. They're mechanical, solid. You go buy a set of new link bar lifters like this, you're looking at $600-700. You can buy a brand new set of roller lifters from Ford for like $140. And there's a million of these things all over the place. I mean, and you can still buy these. And the dog bones. All this stuff is readily available, super cheap. So you can do this entire thing for less than what would you'd probably save about $500 doing it this way versus this way. But this isn't always an option. There is the added expense of the reduced base circle camshaft or the retrofit cam. So keep that in mind. Okay, this is a XXX roller capable 5-liter block. And you can see the way the top of the lifter bores are machined. They're machined flat. That's so this dog bone, see how the dog bone sits on there? That's so it can sit flat. This doesn't move. It may just a little bit if you got a higher lift camshaft in it, but for the most part that just pretty much just sits just like that. And I'll show you this in relation to the lifters here in just one second. This is a 351 Windsor, but this part of the block is still exactly the same. You can see the tops of those lifter bores, they're not machined flat. So it's not going to sit in there exactly the same way, and the lifter bores themselves are going to be different. So keep that in mind if you want to do one of the retrofit kits. Just make sure that you get all the correct components so you don't wind up with the lifters coming up out of the bores too far. And you can see how tall that part of the lifter is, where the dog bone sits. So there's enough room there on a stock camshaft. This is where it would be sitting with the valve closed. It's hard to do with one hand. This is where it'd be sitting with the valve closed. This is where it'd be sitting with the valve open. So this is always going to be sitting flat on the block like that, unless, like I said, you've got a camshaft with a whole bunch of lift, and then it may do some rocking a little bit. That's why you run into this setup. Will make noise in high lift applications, because you're actually hearing this stuff move around where it normally wouldn't. So hopefully that made that as clear as mud. Facebook. I hate Facebook. I hate social media. There is so much misinformation flying around out there, it's unbelievable. Honestly, the only reason I get on there is to get on Marketplace. That's about it. I don't get on there to chit chat, or I'll do a little bit of reading every now and again, but the majority of it is just Marketplace. But the first thing that came up was somebody had a question. What's up with this XXX that I'm seeing in the lifter valley? And this was one of the responses. And this is when I had to stop reading, because I just could not do it. Well, that means it's made in Mexico. Meanwhile, there's the Cleveland Foundry casting thing right on that block. I didn't know Cleveland was in Mexico. Is there a Cleveland, Mexico? No. Yes, there were 302 blocks that were cast in Mexico. It's at Heco in Mexico, right in the Lifter Valley. Those are the only ones. The XXX, the Triple Y, like this one is, I don't think it meant anything. I've seen multiple different families of engines, the 351 Cleveland, I've seen those with the XXX in the Lifter Valley before. I just think it's foundry marks. It's got nothing to do with nickel content. That was another one of the answers, and we all know that's BS. It had answers on nickel content, where it was made, and all kinds of other stuff. I don't think it has anything to do with anything. The only response that I saw that might be true, that I've never thought about, so I've never thought to pay any attention, the XXX blocks wound up in the Mustangs, the Triple Ys were in everything else. That may be legit. I don't know. I don't think so because the blocks are literally identical. There is no difference dimensionally, oil passages, bolt holes, nothing. They are identical, and they're both set up for rollers. So I don't know. The block that I was just showing you guys, the lifter valley on, that was a non-HO engine, and it's a triple X. That didn't come out of a Mustang. This one that's behind me, the non-HO, the triple Y, not 100% sure where it came out of. Doesn't really matter. It's still roller compatible. They're both roller compatible. That was another one of the answers. Oh, triple X is roller, triple Y isn't. I got triple Y sitting right here that says it is roller compatible. The engines, the blocks that they put in the trucks and the Grand Marquis and everything else that were the non-HOs, that after a certain year they went to rollers, those were all roller compatible blocks. They just put flat tappets in them, in the trucks. So I don't think it means diddly squat. The 351, if we wind up going the 96 Explorer route and use parts from it for a bunch of different stuff, the GT40s will wind up on the 351, mildly ported, put some camshaft in it. Don't know if I'm gonna leave the stock pistons in or not. Probably go with a set of flat tops. That block is in an outstanding shape. It would kind of be a shame to bore it. Dial bore gauge, we'll find out if the bores are okay at standard or not. But basically what I'm gonna be doing with that one is building a Lightning engine. I don't want to spend the $1,200 to $1,500 the guys are wanting for the tubular injection intakes, because that's insane. But basically, I want to build a Lightning engine with some cam in it for the 91, because it'll run great. I won't have any crazy heating problem. I can run it on any kind of gas I want. I can drive it anywhere I want to go. It'll run my brakes and my power steering and my air conditioning and everything. It's just going to be a really fun driver. My son and I can jump in that thing and take it on power tour or go anywhere we want to go. Kind of the same deal with the 65. I want to make that thing bulletproof, which is why I'm not going to put a flat tappet camshaft in it. I'm going to stick with the roller block, and at the 330, 340, 350 horsepower range that I might be shooting for, I have nothing to worry about whatsoever. I can drive that thing anywhere I want to go. I was really wanting to get into taking this thing apart, but I think this video is probably already getting too long. So I think we're going to call this video, and then we'll start on another one, and we'll start tearing this thing down, and we'll look at piston flip and all that kind of crap. Gonna get the degree wheel out, and we're gonna figure this thing out. Am I forgetting anything? Ooh, I'm gonna throw this in here just to close the video out. I'm almost 50. I'll be 50 in a couple months. When I was younger, all my friends were into cars. There was like a competition who was gonna get their car done faster, or whose car was gonna be faster, or we were always helping each other, bouncing stuff off each other. We were always swapping parts, and everybody just kind of drifted away. They got out of cars, they had families, they went and bought a Honda Civic or whatever. And it was fun when I was younger, but I have responsibilities now. Well, you can still have fun. Getting older doesn't mean you can't do it anymore. But I moved, came down here, whole new group of friends, their kids, and them and their kids were all into cars, so we started doing all kinds of different stuff. We did the autocross thing, we rode in the car for 24 hours of lemons, and did the demolition derby thing, and I was getting back into building engines for people again, and it was fun. And then the same thing happened. Everybody just, it's hard to find a group of people, like-minded people that are really into it, so it gets kind of lonely, to be honest with you. I still enjoy it, I still like doing it, but it's just, I think it's more fun when you have buddies around. You can drink cold snacks and work on stuff. So I think the biggest thing, my biggest problem is three things. And I think it's every car guy, or every guy in general, every person in general. It's three things if you have any projects at all: time, money, and motivation. And having all three of them at the same time is really, really hard. I don't have a lot of time because I have so many other things I need to be working on. Money is very rarely an issue overall, but it is an issue when it comes to my hobby. So that's where the side hustle stuff comes in. And motivation. It's hard for me to be motivated sometimes because I have so many other things that I need to be working on. If I'm taking time and doing something for me, all I'm thinking about is I should be doing this, or I should be doing that, or I have this other thing that I need to be working on. It's hard. So find a balance. That's why I kind of started making these videos, because yes, it's a little bit lonely because I spend all my time out here for myself, but I get to talk to you guys. So it's not the same as having buddies over, but it's about as close as I can get, I guess. So we're gonna work some more on this 5-liter in the next video, maybe tomorrow. It's supposed to get snow tonight, so depending on what it does, tomorrow may be a day of making soft pretzels and Chex Mix and hanging out and watching movies with the kids. Or it might be out here again. I don't know. We'll see. But until then, you guys get out in the shop and work on your projects. You have a great day, and I will see you either tomorrow or definitely next weekend.